But next up, we have got Pam. Pam wants to talk about living in multiple haunted houses. And if I recall, Pam is also a medium. You're on with Dave and Ethan. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Hi, Pam.
Was I correct that you are a medium?
Yes.
All right. So go ahead and give us your most compelling ghost experience.
Okay, I'll preface that by saying that this started about 45 years ago. I grew up in a house that was built in the 1850s. So originally we thought it was house related, but it was not. Two things I think that are probably really compelling is my mother was raised Catholic, and I am by nature a very skeptical, analytical person. And it was funny because she knew about my experiences with mediumship and the fact that our house was in fact haunted. Although they didn't really like it when we said that. So we would sit down late at night, just the two of us together, and she'd always look around and then sort of whisper, "I have to tell you what happened." Like we were going to put her in a loony bin or something. So for her, the most compelling experience that she relayed to me was it was a Saturday afternoon. She was a big napper and nobody was home. So she thought she'd go and take a quick nap. My dad was out doing errands. So she goes and just like a couple minutes after she lay on the bed, she said, "I was wide awake." She said, the room was really dark. They had blackout curtains. And she said, "Well, your father came in and he grabbed my foot and was shaking it." And she said, I looked at him and said, "All right, smart ass, I'll get up." And she just kind of laughed, and she got up from the bedroom and she walked into the kitchen, and my father was walking in the back door. I had something similar happen to me with someone holding my hand. And again, I was also wide awake.
Okay.
But we would hear music and doors slamming and audible talking, all kinds of things like that. And that's happened in basically every house I've ever lived in. So,
why do you think this is?
I'm sorry?
Why do you think this happens to you? What's the purpose of it?
Just to have contact. I mean, it's several members of my family have the same thing. It's actually almost like talking about a member of the family when something like this happens. It's kind of funny because it's never malevolent. It's always just communicating.
To have contact with the dead, you're saying, so that you have contact with the dead.
Yes.
Real quick, Pamela, are you able to speak up a little bit? Some people on the stream are having trouble hearing you. Sorry, Dave, please.
Okay, no problem. How is that better?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Oh, that was it. Just, I kind of look at these things as the idea of ghosts being around and communicating with the dead. The first question that comes to my mind is, what's the purpose of that? What's the point of it? Because to me, it doesn't make sense. My perspective on it is that I don't see what there is to gain from this and why. And you're just saying it's just to hang out with the dead people and have fun and have conversations, or is that kind of what you're saying?
Not really about. That's not really about hanging out with dead people. That's pretty funny. But in a lot of cases, it's about connecting. And so one of the spirits in my house growing up was my grandfather. And he had died before I was born. And I would ask my mother questions, like I would experience things and hear things, and I would go to my mom and say, "What does this mean?" And she would explain, and the explanation would be exactly the same explanation I got from the other side, things that I had never heard before. And in his case, he was very protective of her. And a lot of times this happens around traumatic experiences.
Mm-hmm.
When mine first happened, there was a very traumatic experience. And the first spirit came to me and she spoke to me. And, I discussed it. I was 10 years old, 9 years old. So a lot of times it's just communicating, saying, we're here, everything's okay, you're all right, or sometimes to give guidance. And there are also ones that are just physically, well, not physically, metaphysically attached to the structure that you're living in.
Well, question for you. Would you have the ability to communicate with a dead family member of mine? If that's putting you on the spot, I totally understand. I know we didn't talk about that beforehand. So obviously,
Right.
no pressure.
I could, being in one thing that actually sort of, not really prevents, but inhibits speaking with another member is pressure and stress. So I would be happy to do that with you off the air.
Deal.
But yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I had an experience not long ago, and I mentioned this in the mediumship thing, where I met somebody for the first time, and I saw a man standing behind him, and I said, who is this man? And I described him head to toe, and this was a member of a ghost hunting group. And he started to cry, and I said, it's your dad, isn't it? And he said, yeah, my dad just passed away, and that's him. So to me, there was like a lot of, I've tested it, in various stages. And one spirit I saw in my sister's house was the man who built the house. I described him and she said, yeah, that was him. And he had died before they ever bought the property. I'd never met him. I'd never seen him. And
So
things like that.
Let me actually ask you this. Because I love the idea of us doing this privately. What information would you need from me to set this reading up?
Nothing.
Okay, awesome. Let me know, I guess, when you're able to do it, and we'll set up a time. Let me know how much time I need to set aside. And if there is a way we can, somehow test this to demonstrably show its reliability, like that would be awesome. So yeah, I mean, that's for me, that's a great point to wrap up. But Dave, did you have any questions?
Well, yeah. So you're saying, Pam, that you're going to do a reading with Ethan and communicate with some of his dead relatives. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. Now I will tell you this. Sometimes when somebody comes to me and they'll say, I want to talk to my Aunt Rosie. Aunt Rosie may not necessarily show up. She may show up, but someone else may show up as well, or instead of. I don't have control over that.
So any number of random dead people could show up to get in on the conversation. Are you able to, would it be the kind of thing where Ethan would hear them as well, or you're just hearing them and telling Ethan what they're saying?
Sometimes I just see them. But if they tell me something, most likely it would just be me that would hear them. But I always ask for proof, being the skeptical sort that I am. I always say, give me something that, makes sense.
So
and that's worked for me in the
past. But none of this makes sense. I'm sorry.
Are you saying that, like, so say I want to communicate with one or two of my dead family members, any dead person could show up and we don't know who it was, but with that.
No, it would be someone related. It would be someone with a connection to you in some way. It wouldn't just be like Joe Schmo from Kokomo.
Oh, okay, cool. That narrows it down. And then can you ask them for something, I guess, convincing to share with you? Like, for instance, in my past experience, it's usually been stuff people can guess, like, oh, he kind of has brown hair, or she thinks you're feeling like this right now. Like, it's never really been anything. where my jaw dropped and I was like, whoa, what did you just say? And that would be ideally what I'm looking for, is some type of continuous communication, comparable to like a radio. You turn on the radio and you can go back and forth, have a conversation with them, and then explain to me like everything they've shared with you.
Well, I shared when I did the mediumship call, I shared this. I was doing a ghost tour with one of Josh Warren's groups here, and it's like the #2 ghost tour in the country. So I was working with them as a psychic, and there was this man there, and I saw him, and I just was fighting against this. Someone was just basically sort of like tapping on my brain, and I went to him and I said, I have to ask you this question. I said, I'm seeing a woman. I described her physically. I said, she's holding yarn. There's something to do with making yarn and having sheep, and there's a farm. And he said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I said, okay, that's really strange, because she's very insistent. And later on, he came up to me and he said, can you tell me that again? And I said, well, sure. And I explained it again. And he said, I don't understand. He's like, my grandmother had a farm and raised sheep, and she made her own yarn, but I just don't see the connection.
So you say you see them, but they don't talk to you. You just see these images
Sometimes they talk. Yes.
out loud where anyone can hear them, or just you?
Usually just me. But like I said, I always ask for some sort of proof.
Okay.
There's no way I possibly could have known about the yarn and the sheep farm.
All right. Well, I think the best place to go from here is, if you could send me a message like after the show, let me know what your availability is and if you're comfortable doing it this week, and what I can do on my end to make sure there's no pressure so we can get the most desirable result.
Right. And I'll sort of give you a few instructions about, being in a quiet place, a few things to do to make it most likely to occur when we meet.
Okay, so serious question. Would it help if I got really, really high? And just kind of... No?
Well,
Okay.
no, that's actually a really good question. And people ask me that a lot, and I'll tell you why. I generally refuse to read with people who have been altered in some way. And the only reason for that is they tend to be less focused. And so the less focused you are, the less focused the reading is. And that mostly happens with tarot. So you'll ask me a specific question, and the answers I'm getting are sort of all over the board because you're not as focused. So, we can certainly try it both ways. I'm totally amenable to that. But generally, that's the rule. That's how it works.
Awesome. Well, good news is I am way more focused than I was a few weeks ago. I got my medication switched, and it's nice. So you will definitely get a very focused Ethan.
What if your ghost that shows up is high? What are you going to do then?
Wow. Well, Dave, any last minute questions for Pam before we move on?
No, the only request I have is if you do a reading for me at some point, I wanted to work it out so that Tom Petty shows up to play guitar and sing in the background while we're talking, and that would make it. That would rock.
Okay, so you know Tom Petty.
Oh.
Yeah. We're BFFs. No.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Did he know you?
But I've listened to a lot of his music. Doesn't that count for something?
Well, I've never really had Jim Morrison show up, so far it hasn't happened.
Well, I think he's still alive working at a Burger King in Minneapolis, but that's just what I heard on the internet.
I thought it was Wendy, but
one or the other. I think he back and forth. COVID, he got laid off. Whatever. Great call.
Pam, it was really nice talking to you. Thanks for calling in, and then just send me a message.
Thanks, Pam.
Yeah, I'll be in touch. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
I'll talk to you later.